Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy NerdModOn, and I'll be doing a gameplay commentary over some Call of Duty Black Ops 2. During this commentary, I will be centralizing my thoughts on the topic of microtransactions, and I will be talking about microtransactions versus DLC and my thoughts on that. So, very complicated inevitabilities, and I want to give you guys the information at the beginning to let you know that I do not pretend to understand everything. It's all up to the developer and the publishing team to define what a microtransaction is and or what a DLC is. It's completely different from publisher to publisher because in some circumstances you will see DLC for weapons, but in some circumstances you will see camos, and the difference between those is very slim, and it's up to the team to decide if that's something that they want to indulge themselves into, which can either be either circumstance. So anyway, guys, we will define what DLC is to jump right off, and then we'll define what microtransactions are. So DLC, as many of you guys have probably come to understand, DLC is more or less downloadable content. Downloadable content can be anything ranging from an extended storyline and multiplayer maps, it can be weapons, it can be anything that is more or less centralized on making the experience better. Now, you have to understand, most games that have DLC are usually multiplayer. That's not always the case, but they do usually have a multiplayer aspect and they want to draw you to that multiplayer experience. Some games like Assassin's Creed in the past did not have multiplayer, and they did have DLC. So you did have the ability to go onto the online market or redeem codes or anything of that assortment to enhance your ability. Maybe you wanted to see what happened to that legendary character, or maybe you wanted to get a different perspective and you wanted to work on a different character. That can usually be something that's a little bit more campaign oriented. However, multiplayer is usually something of the equivalency of more maps, it can be more weapons, it can be weapon camos, it can be anything ranging from departments in which your character occupies. That doesn't always have to be a shooter, I guess, insignia, but more or less it's usually within that participation formula that the community comes together to, buy centralized things because they want to advance their gaming experience. Now, what's the difference between DLC and microtransactions, or what is microtransactions? Again, microtransactions are completely dependent upon the company in which they want to really set forth different occupations of products. So, for example, we've seen in Call of Duty Black Ops 2 the introduction to the microtransaction series, maybe, where you had the ability to buy camos and reticules at the exact same expense. Now, did this give you an advantage over other players? Of course not, but we have seen other titles that have done pay-to-win formulas that, a lot of people look down on that kind of stuff, but it's a gaming experience, and I guess if you are willing to want to spend that much money to really advance your gaming experience, it's not on the publisher and or the team to really say otherwise. It's up to you as a person to really define if that's something you're interested in. But microtransactions are usually small independent packages that can range from anything extremely small like camos, or they can range all the way up from weapon DLC that's only centralized on weapons. So it's a little bit of a hit or miss in these circumstances. It depends upon, again, what the team wants to do. But it's also in the dependency spot of what they will put in these. Sometimes you can buy centralized characters for an X amount to really enhance your ability. Maybe you want to play as that centralized character that was really definitive within the campaign, but he didn't make it to the final cut to the multiplayer. So maybe they'll put it for 150 points for Microsoft, or whatever the equivalency would be for the PlayStation side of it, or PC, and you'll have that ability to buy that character to play with him in an online setting, or maybe in a storyline as well. So anyway, guys, that's kind of the difference between those. One can be ranging from really big packages. Usually they're sufficient in cost, and I know you can bundle stuff, but most of this time you usually see them in small little packages. Like if you want to buy one centralized camo for a microtransaction, it's usually going to be something like 100 Microsoft points, or the equivalency on different platforms. If you want to buy a complete DLC that upholds anything from maps and weapons, maybe a premium ship if you're a Battlefield player, they usually cost a little bit more. They can range anywhere from $15 to $60, and that's usually the pricing point in which they occupy. I know you can bundle microtransactions like we've seen in Call of Duty, but that's completely different in different circumstances, because that's just giving you the ability to pick the ones that you want to use to buy it as one centralized package, maybe for a decreased price. I'm not too sure on that. So anyway, guys, how do I feel about microtransactions? Well, personally, I don't have a huge deal with them because I myself don't buy them. But I could see how people would get enraged by the concept of this. You want that super awesome camo, and you just can't have it unless you're willing to spend more money. Again, they're not always costing as much as a DLC, but if you wanted to buy 7 of the little things and they cost, 100 Microsoft points a piece, that's 700 points. So that means at that expense, you have to go out and buy Microsoft points, and or if you're on the PlayStation side, you use your credit card or any other formula that you've placed in on your online account. PC as well. I'm not sure if you guys have a system of just different revenue, but more or less I imagine you just use your credit card. With that in mind, it can be a little bit enraging, you know, if you buy a game, you buy an online pass, you expect to get all the DLC. You expect that you get all the downloadable content plus microtransactions. Black Ops 2 definitely enraged a lot of people when microtransactions were not talked about previous to this, and they kind of told everybody you get all the DLC. Now granted, nobody knew about the camos that would be upcoming and or the classes and all that stuff that they would add on later, but you could probably see if people were buying this, they would expect that they got the microtransactions, because in a sense, they almost are a DLC. It's very hit or miss depending on how you want to look at it. Other games have done things like this, like pay to win. That's something that a lot of people get really enraged about, like I previously talked about. But my personal opinion on that is, I guess, if you're not willing to want to spend as much time to get to those higher ranks, then maybe you want to kind of boost your way up and get the double XP and advanced weaponry and all that stuff, so you're spending your money to advance yourself at a quicker pace instead of playing more hours. It's dependent on how much time, I guess, you occupy. If you're a very busy person and you really want that super cool weapon or that super fast car, you know, spending a couple of dollars probably will save you the entertainment factor, though you're probably going to continually spend more money because you're going to feel the need to always want to upgrade. So that can always be a problem, I guess, in that circumstance. I mean, it depends on how far the ranks and the ladders go. If there is a centralized spot in which the game ends, then you already have the best thing, and you've probably spent majority less hour than, you know, the most players have probably spent trying to maximize their XP per hour to really get to that definitive position. But again, it's hit or miss. It depends on how you guys view it and the time in which you occupy. If you're very good at games and you're always really, you know, always playing them, you're not busy or anything like that, this probably isn't a big deal for you. But if you're also not financially stable in a microtransaction position, this is probably enraging you as well. Because, you know, you don't want to be told that you can't get something. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to occupy all the DLC that they possibly can if they're indulging themselves into the online experience at the maximum capacity. But again, it just depends on how you guys personally go about it, and microtransactions are not pressed onto you as hard as maybe they could be. And I can imagine if DLC for weapons was something that they introduced in the microtransaction position, I could see how a lot more people would be enraged because of the centralized purpose that those guns might be better or may make the game a lot better than the game currently is, or in different definitive positions. So anyway, guys, how do I feel about DLC microtransactions? Doesn't really affect me. It doesn't do a whole lot for me, but I can imagine a lot of positions that people would get, you know, a little depressed, angry, upset with companies for trying to squeeze more profit out of a game, but overall it doesn't affect me, and I'm interested to see what you guys will say, because I know some of you guys are really indulged into the Battlefield experience and or Call of Duty, any AAA title. Maybe some of you guys are watching this on other games that you like to play, like single player games that are majority of their effort is spent on that, so I can imagine, and I can only, you know, try to understand how you guys feel. So overall, I would love if you guys would share your thoughts, but this has been NMO, and I'll be signing out, guys. Peace.